Welcome in, Slump Busters. Your host, Juju and Kyle. And to hide my Celtics bias, I am saying game on as we welcome in the host of Game On Wisconsin, Brandon Sneide. Brandon is also a writer for the Dairyland Express. Welcome to the Slump Buster.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me. It's fun to join a podcast of, fans of the other team that you're playing against in the playoffs. It's so much fun. I did it last year. I had a blast doing it. It's an honor to be here. I am excited to talk some playoff basketball with you fine gentlemen.
Well, you should know you're not really stepping in the lion's den here. Kyle, he hates the Celtics. I'm the lone representative. If anything, I'm at the disadvantage here, even on my own show. So, but no, just love talking to different people, especially like you said, in the midst of a playoff series, in the midst of a 1-1 split in a playoff series, where both games, I mean, you guys just breakaway threes, incredible defense in game one. And then everything was falling for the Celtics in game two. We know the answer probably lies somewhere in the middle between these two performances. What are your big takeaways from the first two games?
Those two games couldn't have been more different from each other than they were in games 1 and 2. Game one was weird because as a Milwaukee Bucks fan, and I follow the team religiously, like funny story, I don't know if you can see this, but I have a Bucks tattoo on my arm and Bucks and 6. So I followed them, religiously. I watch every game and they suck during day games. Like they are not good when there's a tip off between, noon and 2:30. And I know game 3 is on 2:30 on Saturday. So again, I'll be interested to see how they come out in that one. So going into that first game one, I was like, that's going to be the Celtics game. They're going to have the energy. They're going to have the home crowd. The TD Garden is always lit. It's going to be insane. And you got an up and coming star in Jayson Tatum. He's probably already arrived really. And they just are a damn good, sound basketball team. And it's going to be hard to sneak game one out in Boston in front of that home crowd. And they did. And convincingly, the Milwaukee Bucks went in there and dominated the boards. Giannis had a pretty awful day to his own standards shooting the basketball. He did finish with a triple double, which is kind of what we're, as Bucks fans, we're spoiled now. We're kind of used to something like that. And then game 2, Jaylen Brown went nuclear. I mean, was just shooting flames out of his fingertips. And we kind of had a feeling as Bucks fans, as a guy that writes about the Bucks and talks about the Bucks, you didn't think you were going to sneak 2 out of Boston. You wanted to get 1 out of Boston. You accomplished that. It was a weird game 1 because it was an unpredicted win in a weird way. It was kind of a sloppy game, really from both sides of the ball, but really from more so on Boston in game 1. And then game 2, you weren't expecting Jaylen Brown to go, what was it, 25 points in the first half? I believe it was 9 of 10 in the first half. He was insanely on fire, crossed over Grayson Allen, just a outstanding performance. But now I think the series really starts to begin. I think this is it. Now both teams are kind of settling in. The Milwaukee Bucks took one. They took home court. Now, could you say the pressure's back on the Bucks? It was on the pressure was on Boston in game 2, and they responded in a damn good way. And now the pressure's back on Milwaukee because now you have home court as the Milwaukee Bucks. You're the defending champions. You have the best player in the series. I know Celtics fan may say Jayson Tatum is getting there, and he probably will be soon enough, if not already. But now you have to defend home court if you're the Milwaukee Bucks. And I really, truly think this series, out of all the series, Miami's probably on their way to winning. Phoenix is probably going to win that series. Memphis and Golden State's a good one. But Boston and Milwaukee, because they play a brand of basketball, guys, that we don't see a whole lot. It's that defense. We don't see a lot of defense in the NBA. And these are probably two of the top teams defensively. I know the Bucks are in the top team so far in the playoffs, although it was against the Chicago Bulls. And obviously Boston's been doing it all year long. So it's going to be a grind out series. I think it's the best series right now in the NBA, and it's just starting. Both teams got to win, and games 3 and 4 are going to be huge.
Well, you mentioned Giannis's performances in the first couple games because he had the triple double in 3 quarters. He's shooting like 38% from the field, which is less than average. And also like it didn't matter in game 1, especially when Drew Holiday was putting up the performance he was, and they shot close to 40% from 3 until the end of the game. The numbers went down a bit. So how do you feel about Bucks, Giannis offensively so far in this series against the Celtics defense that kind of said just collapse on Giannis and let everyone else try and beat them?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's the thing that we were worried as Bucks fans going into the series. When Kris Middleton went down, you took care of business against the Chicago Bulls. Now Kris Middleton goes down in game 3 against the Chicago Bulls, and really you didn't miss a beat. In fact, the offense in that series, not in general, but in that series was better. Grayson Allen, 22 points, 27 points. He outscored Levine and DeRozan combined in game 3 and 4. I mean, he kind of stepped up in a big way. Bobby Portis took on a bigger role, inserted into the starting lineup. You know, the scoring was kind of distributed evenly without Kris Middleton's absence, but the offense has to come from somewhere. Kris Middleton, although he struggled in the first 2 games against Chicago, he's a career 20-point scorer on average. I mean, can create his own shot. He hits big shots. When Giannis went down with the freak knee injury last year in the Eastern Conference Final, Kris Middleton stepped up, closed out that series, had 40 points. The scoring has to come from somewhere. Look, there's no secret. Boston's defense is legit, and they play Giannis tough, maybe tougher than any other team. Grant Williams, is a rock. Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, obviously Marcus Smart, Defensive Player of the Year. We won't get into that debate because I'll get mad. He is somebody that the offense has to come from somewhere. And where's it going to come from? It's guys have to step up, and Giannis, nothing's going to come easy. We've seen him have offensive struggles in the regular season against Miami, for example, with Bam Adebayo. Robert Williams is one of those guys that can give Giannis fits. He's athletic. He's a little bit lighter on his feet, but he's still athletic enough to cause problems for him. And that's where guys like Jrue Holiday, Bobby Portis, Grayson Allen, these guys, Pat Connaughton coming off the bench, they got to step up and they got to hit big shots.
We know that Mike Budenholzer isn't really known for his adjustments. We already saw that Ime made a big adjustment in putting Daniel Theis, you're on the bench. Sorry, you're not coming off. You're staying on the bench, having to adjust behind Marcus Smart being out and having to work the rotation of Derek White and Peyton Pritchard. What is Budenholzer's adjustment after that miserable game 2?
Yeah, I think that the thing about Coach Bud is under Coach Mike Budenholzer for the Milwaukee Bucks, the winner of game 3, whether it be the Bucks or whether it be another team, winner of game 3 has won the series 100% of the time, no matter what, no matter how the game has gone. Now, obviously having the adjustments, how do you adjust against Boston? Because Boston is more of a, well-rounded team than I think in the first series against Chicago. You obviously knew where the points were coming from with Chicago, Levine, DeRozan. Boston can beat you on a lot of different fronts. They can shut you down offensively. They can make things tough for you. Marcus Smart, I'm assuming, is coming back to play in game 3 after his thigh contusion. Jaylen Brown, we saw it in game 2, can explode at any given moment. And Jayson Tatum can go off and destroy anybody for any given amount of time. So the adjustments for Boston are tough. I think if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, you just got to play your brand of basketball. And that's like a cliche type thing to say, but I think it's legit. If you're the Milwaukee Bucks, do what works for you. And I wish they would play Brook Lopez down with his back to the basket more than they do. And I don't understand why. He's 7'1". I like Robert Williams. I don't think Al Horford can defend Brook Lopez down low. I think if you fed Brook Lopez, even Giannis, because we've seen Giannis take, how many offensive charges does the guy cause a game? I mean, 12 in the first round. I can tell you that. I don't know how many right now. 12 in the first round. If they played them down low in the box. Now, again, I understand, they won a championship. And I can't complain doing what they're doing now, but I wish they would take advantage of the size that they have against Boston, because I think as great defensively as Boston is, if you are playing at the top of the key, you're playing to what they want you to play. And that's Boston. That is, they want Giannis to drive the basketball. They want to collapse that defense, and they're going to force you, Jrue Holiday, Pat Connaughton, Bobby Portis, they're going to force those guys to try to beat you. If you play Giannis down low, maybe Brook Lopez down low, you have that size advantage. You have the rebound advantage. I think you can take advantage of it. But as far as the adjustments, I think you're not going to see a ton of Mike Budenholzer. I think it is kind of what they are. We've noticed last year it would drive us nuts because we would watch Trae Young in the Eastern Conference Finals, and it was literally the only offensive weapon they had, and he would just not make any adjustments to him, and he would make Trae Young beat him. And obviously that didn't, work out for the Atlanta Hawks, but Boston's different. They're a better team. Like I said, well-rounded. How do you stop Jaylen Brown? How do you stop Jayson Tatum? It's a lot easier said than done. You've got a couple good defenders, Wes Matthews, Jrue Holiday, obviously, and then obviously there's Giannis. They're going to see different things. I think what it is for the Milwaukee Bucks is they got to start out better. I mean, Boston went on, 15-3 to open the game in game 2 and really never looked back. And it was a 20-point deficit by halftime. The Milwaukee Bucks they struggled against that with that against the Chicago Bulls. The only game the Chicago Bulls won in that series, they started out 9-0 run to begin the game. For Milwaukee, it's getting out and playing with some energy. And they're kind of a weird team. It's a frustrating team. You love them because they won a championship and they're my team. But when they flip a switch, you can see like, damn, like these guys, bam, like Jrue Holiday's not turning over the ball. Giannis isn't turning over the ball. Guys are hitting their shots. Guys are playing defense. Guys are getting loose balls. And there's moments where they're just not doing any of it. And you saw it in game 2.
So without Kris Middleton, Jrue Holiday's had to kind of take 20 to 25 shots a game and fill that role. Obviously, game 1, he shot like 55%. In game 2, he shot 35%. And the results kind of bear out in the same way. It's more out of necessity than it is like this is an ideal game plan. But how do you feel about him being a volume shooter or volume scorer during this series?
What in the regular season, it was like the last month, we were calling him fourth quarter Jrue. So when they started out the month of March, they had a brutal schedule. They had like Charlotte, they had Miami, they had Chicago on back-to-backs. Like they had a tough schedule. And we were calling him fourth quarter Jrue because Kris Middleton was obviously still playing, but he was lighting it up in the fourth quarter. He was really offensively carrying them for those games, especially those closeout games. I think I make the argument that he's one of the best two-way players in the NBA. And does that affect his offensive game, what he does on the defensive side of the ball? It could. I trust Jrue Holiday. I've seen him play only 1 year. The 1 year he did play, we obviously won a NBA championship, and I've seen him make big time shots in big time moments. And that's a guy that I trust. I just don't know if it's enough without Kris Middleton. We haven't seen a whole lot. This is the first series Kris Middleton went out. We're not going to see him in this series for sure. He went out game 3 of Chicago series. So we had a few games with Kris Middleton, but it wasn't, no offense to Chicago, it wasn't the Boston Celtics. The defense is not even close on the same path. I think Chicago actually in the first round had the worst defense in the playoffs among the, X amount of teams. How many they ever count? I know there's the play-in tournaments. There's like half the league is in the playoffs. So I trust him. Is it going to be enough to carry a team? Probably not. I'm not saying Milwaukee's going to lose the series, but guys have to step up. Like I mentioned, we saw Grayson Allen drop 22 and 27 in the absence of Kris Middleton. Now, Jrue Holiday was still averaging over 20 points, but if Jrue Holiday is just at 20 points, roughly 22 points, Giannis is going to get his 26, 28. It's not going to be enough. We need other guys to step up. I trust Jrue Holiday to hit those shots. I trust Jrue Holiday to play a little bit of offense. But again, they're going to need somebody else to step up.
I think the 3-point shooting is a big storyline in the first 2 games, and particularly for the Bucks throughout the season, as the Bucks actually allowed the most like open 3-point opportunities in the NBA. If teams knock them down like the Celtics did in game 2, that's going to be a problem. And that's how you fall behind in 20, 30 points in a game. In game 1, obviously that didn't happen for Celtics. They weren't hitting anything. They couldn't hit the ocean if they jumped off the boat. That's where Jaylen Brown was. Like, who needs to step up on the perimeter? Because right now it's about a 72-point opportunities versus 93-point opportunities for the Celtics in games 1 and 2.
I know. I think in the first half too, in game 2, they were like 13 of 20. I mean, it was, God, I don't remember seeing a game where a team shot as good as they did for the longest time in the season. Look, losing Kris Middleton is one thing on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, you're not losing a whole lot. And I say that with all the respect in the world. I love Kris Middleton, but Wes Matthews has to be better defensively. He was brought back to this team. If you remember, he was with the Bucks, or maybe you don't remember, he was with the Bucks during their run in 2020 before COVID hit, then the bubble. Then the Bucks got bounced in the second round by the Miami Heat. And so then he played for the Los Angeles Lakers. Then he came back to Milwaukee this year, and he was brought back for one specific reason, and it was just to really play defense. He's not asked to score a lot. He hits a few threes here and there. He hits some shots here and there, but defensively, he gave DeRozan fits. In round 1, DeRozan still exploded for 41 in game 2, but he did not go over 25 points after that, after game 2. And that was a lot of that was to do with Wesley Matthews. Wesley Matthews, I think, has to be better defensively against guys like he's going to match up with Jayson Tatum. You saw Giannis match up with Jayson Tatum. The Bucks switch everything defensively, and they play a lot of drop zone, which means that when they switch, they're really just dropping down and they're sagging into that paint, and they don't want to score in the paint. Now, is that an adjustment Mike Budenholzer makes? Because again, no offense to Robert Williams, I don't think he's going to beat you in the paint in a series. He may have a good game, but I don't think you're going to win this series. If you're the Boston Celtics or you're Boston Celtics fans, you're going to win this game or this series because Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown led the way for you. And that's just a fact of the matter. And I think having Wesley Matthews step up defensively, we got to see Jrue Holiday be better defensively, staying out of foul trouble. We've seen Jrue Holiday getting a lot of foul troubles early against the Chicago Bulls. So Jrue Holiday, I would say, obviously Wes Matthews, and guys off the bench. Grayson Allen and Pat Connaughton are the first two guys off the bench, because now Bobby Portis is pulled in into the starting lineup in the absence of Kris Middleton. But again, Bobby Portis isn't here for his defense either. So you can only rely on a handful of guys defensively. It's a team thing. But again, the Bucks switch everything. It comes down to Wes Matthews, Jrue Holiday, Pat Connaughton, and Grayson Allen. They got to be better defensively.
So if that's a concern on the defensive end of the floor, do you think the rotations are fine as they are, or do you think you could switch that up as the series goes along?
No, and we've seen it with Mike Budenholzer. I think the rotations are fine. He keeps them short in the playoffs. Depending on the round, it's 8, maybe 9 at the most. Your first few guys off the bench are Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen really comes in the first 6 minutes. And then it's Pat Connaughton usually after that. Now, obviously, Kris Middleton being out, you're going down your bench a little bit more. But we haven't seen him dip into that bench a whole lot. I think the rotations have been very good. He's set in his ways. You're kind of seeing it in Memphis too. I'm trying to think. Taylor Jenkins, the coach down in Memphis, who coached he was in Milwaukee under an assistant with Budenholzer. You've seen him with his guys too. John Morant down in Memphis, he won't go over, an X amount of minutes. They have a restriction set in place, and that's just Mike Budenholzer, unless it's the NBA Finals or the Eastern Conference Finals, guys aren't going over 35 minutes. He keeps those down. I think the rotations are fluid. Having guys like Wesley Matthews and Pat Connaughton, both of them are very good defenders. They got to be better defensively overall.
In terms of the title chances as we look ahead, because when you do a weekly podcast, some stuff ages out quick. The Miami Heat seem firmly in hand, leading the Philadelphia 76ers on the other side of the bracket. How do you think the Bucks match up with the Miami Heat if that ends up being the Eastern Conference Finals?
It's a doozy, because Tyler Herro's playing out of his mind right now. Maybe not out of his mind. Maybe this is just who he is. We've seen it in his rookie year. They go to the NBA Finals, and they just ran into the Lakers, and Anthony Davis and LeBron James are playing at a different level. But man, they're good, and they've been showing it all year. I mean, defensively, with and this is without Kyle Lowry in these first few games against Philly. Jimmy Butler and Bam together defensively. You mix in the shooting that they have with Duncan. I know he's not having the year he had a few years ago, Duncan Robinson, that is. Tyler Herro is obviously playing 6th man of the year. And then you got PJ Tucker. And if you're a Bucks fan, you know all about PJ Tucker. He just celebrated his 37th birthday, and, he's like going the other way with the age. But man, they're a problem. And I think they're a problem for any team. I'll tell you this though, and I've said this on my podcast, I've said this to friends and family. The winner of this series, Boston, Milwaukee, is going to the NBA Finals. Now, obviously, you got to get through Miami. The winner of this series is going to go on. As much as I respect Miami, they're not playing really anybody right now. And that's respect to, Philly. I get it. James Harden is a shell of himself. Tyrese Maxey is great as he is, as quick as he is, as fun as he is to watch. He's not a superstar. You don't have Joel Embiid. Miami's not getting pushed. They didn't get pushed in round 1. They're probably not going to get pushed in round 2. And it's kind of like last year. If you remember Brooklyn and Milwaukee in round 2, it went 7 games. A lot of people said, that's the win. Whoever wins that series is going to move on. The reason I say that is because Milwaukee and Boston both play defense, I think, above what Miami does. Miami's great as a team, but I don't think defensively they're on the level where Milwaukee and Boston are right now. I think the chances are for either one of these teams, Milwaukee or Boston, if they do go to that next round, it's not going to be easy. Every round gets tougher. If you've, cheered on a basketball team that's gone to the NBA Finals, you realize every round your blood pressure goes up and up and up. But I think that the chances of the Bucks repeating, it's tough. It depends on where the Kris Middleton thing is. I don't think they can win a title without Kris Middleton. I think when you take a number 2 scoring option off of any team, Boston lost Jaylen Brown. If Miami lost Bam Adebayo, you're probably not winning. Like it's hard. And we don't know where Kris Middleton is with the knee. There was an update today, but it was very vague. Mike Budenholzer actually said there is no update. So that's basically as vague as it can get as far as an update with the injury. But if Milwaukee doesn't get Kris Middleton back, they're going to struggle in this round. This round's going probably 6 or 7, minimum of 6, I think. But if you are able to get past Boston, if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, your only shot at beating Miami is full strength. And we've seen it last year as Bucks fans. Health, it's luck. You know, it's like any team that wins a championship. There's luck involved for any of it. There's got to be something that falls your way. And last year the Bucks stayed healthy, other than that freak accident to Giannis, but somehow he had magic growing in his knee and he was completely fine, you know, going to the NBA finals, or not fine, but he was able to play. But I think if the Bucks and the Celtics, either one of those teams can stay healthy. I know Marcus Smart's probably going to be back for game 3 in his thigh contusion. I think if either team is healthy enough going into the Eastern Conference Finals, I think they beat Miami. I don't think it's a 7-game series. I think both teams probably win that series in 6 games.
Fair and balanced, objective takes. Appreciate you, man. All right. You got to give all the plugs. You got to tell us where we can find your content. If regrettably I have to listen to Milwaukee Bucks content in the next round.
No, man, I appreciate you guys, man. I love jumping on these podcasts and, you know, I call it like it is. I'm a realist. I'm a homer. You know, if you're in my living room and I'm watching the game, I'm cussing at the TV and yelling at the wall and Bucks and 6. Yeah. So you can follow me on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, I usually follow everybody back. I try to at Brandon_Sneide. I host a podcast every Friday over on Game On Wisconsin. You can follow them on Twitter. It's a network that we have a bunch of podcasts. At Game On WI. I have a show. My initials are BS, so I had to have a little fun with it. My show is called Cut the BS, and it's a weekly podcast. Right now, it's pretty much Bucks because there is no other sport really going on. Baseball just started. I'm a big baseball fan. I see the Giants stuff in the background. I respect it. So yeah, I break down Wisconsin sports, and then you can follow my writing work over at dairylandexpress.com, covering the Packers, the Bucks, and the Brewers.
Brandon Sneide, go ahead and check him out. From your host, Juju Talk Sports. I better stay safe, happy, healthy. We'll see you on the next one.